Hi, welcome to another video by Get It Done Home Repairs. Today we're just going to be changing the switch here. As you can see, that switch is white. The backsplash is actually more like a tan type color, so we have a replacement switch that we're going to be changing. Now before you buy a switch, make sure you get the correct one. There's what they call the single pole switch, and then you have the one that's actually called a three-way, where it can be controlled from two different locations. This switch here only is controlling one light, the light up on top here. Now, you can see the light is off. I already turned the circuit breaker off already, so I know that the light has no power going to it, so we're not going to get electrocuted. So make sure your power is off. Now, as far as tools, what you're going to need, this is very basic what you're going to need. You're going to need a couple of screwdrivers, a Phillips head and a flathead. You may need a pair of pliers and the test light just in case you're not sure if the power is off or not. Now, if this is only one example of a test light. There's all different kinds that you have out there. This I like because I can put it in my pocket and I don't wind up searching around for it. All right, first thing we're going to do now is we're going to take out this cover, take out the screws here. Take that cover off. Cut. Okay, now you see I got the cover off over here, and you can see underneath here, you see these screws that are in here? Somebody, not knowing who, but I have an idea who did it, that they put the wrong screws in there. Those are drywall screws. They don't belong in here. The screws that belong in here are these type of screws. They're actually, I think they're 632 or 832. That's the screw that belongs in there, not a drywall screw. So I'm pretty confident we're going to have a problem when we try to put this back together, but let's see what happens. That's what we're going to run into a problem, because they made the boxes on the houses today, they're made of plastic. You see these boxes are made of plastic? When you run a screw in there like this, you damage the threads for this to go into. So hopefully we're going to be in good condition, but we're going to find out right now. Okay, well, these screws, as I told you, these are the wrong ones. This is the one that belongs in there, but these are actually too short. So that you can get a replacement screw that's a little bit longer, and it's the right one that's made for the job. So instead of putting the drywall screws back in, we're going to use the right ones for it. All right, so now that we have our switch out, we're just going to turn it sideways like this. And as you can see on this one, there's actually wiring going. There's 3 different wires connected on here. So we're just going to actually duplicate the way the wires are right now. We're going to take it off of here, connect it on there. This one here, we're going to put back in there, and the same thing here. So, all right, and the way you get these out, you can see that this one is pushed into here. This one goes around the screw, and this one doesn't. What you do is take a very small screwdriver and you put it into that opening right there, and you push it, and it releases and takes it out, just like that. All right? Now, if you're not going to remember where the wires go, it's probably a good idea to actually take this now and stick it right back in there so you don't have a problem, and put it in the wrong place. All right, and we'll do the same thing over here. We're going to take that one out. We put this in here, just push it down, and it releases the next wire. And we take it and put it right back in, like this. So it goes back in where it came out. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to take off this wire here. We're going to put this wire around this screw. Now you want to always have the opening of the wire. See how the wire is facing this way? When you tighten it, you want to have this part of the wire tightening up versus opening up. So we're going to put it on here like this, pull it around, and just squeeze these together just a little bit, just like that. And now we're going to tighten up that screw right here. And we're going to pull this so it actually goes right straight through here, like that. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to rotate it this way. Same thing over here. And we're going to take our ground wire right here off. Unscrew the ground wire. And then we're just going to reattach our ground wire right up on here. And that's it. Everything is put back together exactly as it came off, and it's back on the same way. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take out this screw here because we know it's not long enough. We're going to put the longer screw through here. I don't know if I mentioned it, but that screw is actually 632. Now, the reason we need the longer screws on there is because this was actually added later on, which brought this out just a little bit further. I'm going to push this back in here. Now these screws, you don't want to over tighten them. If you over tighten them, it's going to actually pull the switch down and it's going to bend this piece right here. So you want to just screw them in until it comes in contact with the wall, and then you would stop. Okay? Like I said, if you tighten these down and tighten them further, it's actually going to pull the switch and bend it inside there. And now we can put our cover back over the top like that. And we can put our screws back in here. And that's it, the switch is done. Now if we did our job right, we're going to turn the circuit breaker on, and it'll work. So let me do that.
I just did.
It's on now? There we go. All right, so that's it, we're all set. Now, one thing I will point out, which I am going to change, which somebody is probably going to say something about, you see those screws are white? That would drive me nuts. So I'm going to actually change those, and we're going to actually have these screws match the same color as this right here. All right, that's it, we're all done. This one is finished. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to get the outlet here, and we're going to change this outlet too. So stick around, and we'll come back and we'll finish this off. Hi, welcome to another video by Get It Done Home Repairs. Today we're going to be changing the outlet right here. Now you know I changed that switch over here, and we could tell by just turning the light off and on if there was power in there or not. But this one you don't know for sure unless you're going to put your tool in there so you can actually see if there's power in there. Now here you can see the light is lit, so we know there's power. We're going to go over to the circuit box now and turn the circuit breaker off to make sure that we have no power and that we're not going to get jolted. All right, so let's do that. Okay, so now as you can see, the light is now off, so we know there's no power in there, so anything we touch, we're not going to get a shock from. All right, so now we're going to take the cover off. Again, they put the wrong screws in here too. They use drywall screws in here again. You're not supposed to use a drywall screw to hold the outlet in place. And we just take it and pull it out. Turn it sideways so you can see what's going on. And then we're just going to duplicate what you see on here. The wires that come off, we're going to make sure we put the wires back on in the same location. You got to make sure that the wires go back where you took them off. So you see how your ground goes down on the bottom right here. You want to make sure you hold it the same way and put it back together the same way. So we loosen the screws. We're just going to open the wires up a little bit so we can get them off, just like that. And then we're going to do them one at a time so you don't make a mistake. I am going to change this just so you know, because this is not right. These wires are way too long. They shouldn't be sticking out that far. So we are going to shorten these wires down a little bit. So we are going to change this a little. We're just going to take this now. We're going to create the loop right up here. And the loop we're going to wrap around here. So you're going to take the wire like this, hold it right here, and you're going to create the loop around like that. We're going to cut off some of this wire because it's way too long. We're going to squeeze these wires together. Alright, so that wire is now tight. Now you see how that wire doesn't stick past the back of the box? You don't want to have all of this exposed wire showing through here and here. This should be shortened down so that the insulation is even with the back of it over there. So we're going to do the same thing on this one as well. Going to stretch it till it's straight. We're going to hold the pliers on here like this, and then we're going to create that loop on the end over here. We cut off the extra right there. And now we're going to reattach the wire on here. We're going to squeeze these wires together here so that they practically touch each other. You're going to center that wire in the opening right there. And then you're going to tighten up that screw. Now you see the screw is turning clockwise. The open part of the wire should tighten up when you tighten up the screw as well. If you put it the other way, it's actually going to open up the loop that we just created. Okay, now we're going to turn this sideways like this. And we're going to turn this one as well, like this. And we're going to switch over these wires. And as you can see, these wires are way too long here as well. So we're going to take those and we're going to shorten them down too. Okay, now you see the wire, it's all bent down underneath there. So now nothing is sticking down past there. We're going to make sure that that wire is below that little plastic piece so it tightens up nice and tight. Again, you want to make sure that the open part of the wire is tightening up and not loosening up. Last thing we're going to do is do the same thing on this one. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to shorten this wire down here as well. Why they left it that long, I have no idea. I'm going to put this back in here. I'm going to just pinch it back together so that it's nice and tight there. Hold your wire, make sure it's in that plastic tab right there. And we're going to tighten this down. Okay. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to take our ground wire off right here, and we're going to put the ground wire back on to the new switch. Now, we just crimped them together, and as you can see, this one here is a little longer than the rest of them, but this doesn't matter because everything on this ground wire is bare wire anyway, so it doesn't really matter, it can stay just that way. Okay, so we have our wires tight here. We have our ground wire on there. We have our 2 power leads on here, and all the screws are tight. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take out these shorter screws, and we're going to put a longer screw in place of it. You can see the difference. Okay, now when you put your switch back in the wall, you have a lot of wires here, so you need to bend them so that they actually, as the switch goes, as the outlet goes back in, the wires get pushed together versus being jumbled up. So we push them up and put the bend in the bottom, and then we just push the socket back in. Let me just grab my utility knife. Okay, so that's it. We just screw these screws back in, put the cover on, and we're good to go. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.